Hello and welcome. I'm Erin Lebax. Thanks for being here at the channel. Today we're talking about a goal that I think most of us have for our business and professional writing and even our academic writing, which is being clear and concise. We all want to cut the fluff, but the question is how? Well, take out fluff words. Again, how? Today we're going to talk about a really easy way to do this, and it's all about the verbs. We'll look at the fact that most of us have been coached to default to choosing a verb that's not very helpful and makes us very wordy. That is the verb to be. For example, is and are, which we're mostly going to focus on. When we use that verb, our writing naturally gets wordy. Why is that? Because the word is doesn't mean a whole lot on its own. Can you imagine someone ising? No, but you can imagine someone discussing, presenting, debating, leading. Right? So we want to use verbs readers can imagine and visualize. They're easier to remember, but not only that, those verbs pack in so much information that just the one word, the verb itself, is enough, and we don't need to add the fluff. Let's check it out. All right, so let's start out by seeing what happens when we do write with is or are as our verb. Marcos is in charge of. That is what Marcos is doing, is in charge of. 4 words to describe what he's doing, is in charge of new accounts. Now, this is where I ask myself, is there a verb for that? Is there a verb for is in charge of? Definitely, directs, manages, oversees, supervises, so many. And I'll tell you what, I also think using the strong visual verb gives more respect to Marcos. So this is actually helpful for writing with emotional intelligence as well. Instead of saying, hey, Marcos, yeah, he is, we're saying, Marcos, yeah, he supervises. Right away, we're getting the respect for what Marcos does. So we have sort of 3 wins here when we use a visual verb. Fewer words, more meaning, potentially more respect, clarity, specificity. All right, let's check out what Sasha's up to. She is in favor of working from home. Is there a verb for that? Yep, prefers, likes, enjoys, any of those. And prefers is a really interesting example to me because with prefer, we actually learn more information about the situation. Prefer means there was more than one option and she liked one better than the other, which Sasha is in the room, Sasha is in trouble. We don't know where we're going with this, and we're making the reader wait. With Sasha prefers, we learn the information right away, and as you notice, we save ourselves a whole bunch of words. Now keep in mind, this is not always just a word-for-word swap. It often is. You'll often be able to find a sort of lurking verb, like Sasha is in favor of, oh, Sasha favors, right? But sometimes it won't be so exact. So here are a couple sort of typical situations you might find yourself in where you might have a sentence that either starts with it is or there are. Now those are both what I call slow lead-ins. Those make the reader wait for information. It is important to note the. That's 6 words and our reader has not learned anything about what we're talking about. That's what can happen when we end up defaulting to these habits of using is and are, and most of us have those habits just from how we grew up doing our writing. So nothing to be embarrassed about, but if you use a lot of is, are, you're in a good position because if you just change that one habit, you're going to see your fluff fall away when you bring in these stronger verbs. So instead of it is important to note the impact of the exchange rate, in that case, I don't even know who did it. Who's doing the noting? Let's say it's us. We should recognize. Now that's a stronger verb and we have someone doing it. So notice in that case I had to bring in a who. Who's doing it? Because it is important doesn't even give us that information, which is another hit against it. There are many examples, including X, Y, and Z. I can just say examples include and get right to that verb include. So sometimes it won't be a word-for-word swap, but there will always be a way to use a verb that gives more of a story, more of a visual than is or are. All right, now just in case you've been looking at your writing and you're kind of like, well, I don't use is that much, I use was. Same thing, Okay. Now, is, are, was, were, will be, has been, have been, will have been, all these verbs are actually the same verb. It's the verb to be. Now, with other verbs, you know that they're the same verb. Swim, swam, swum. Drink, drank, drunk. We're used to verbs that sound like one another, but is and was, those are actually the same verb here. So if you use was and were instead of is and are, you'll find yourself in the same problem, except it'll be in the past tense. The invoice was not delivered on time. So we have was not delivered. Let's say arrived. 3 words into one. There were 3 options that the committee discussed. I'm going to put the committee in the front. That's, we talk about that in some other videos, right? Leading with who is doing something is another way to be concise. Let's put them up in the front and give them a real verb. What did they do? They didn't were, they discussed. So same goes, any tense you're writing in, you're in the same situation that the to be verb does not carry very much information, which will require you to bring in the fluff. So it's better to just use a verb that has the information to start with, and then you won't need those extra words. So try this out on your next email. You know who's going to thank you is your reader. Readers want to learn quickly. Readers are busy. We're all readers. We're busy, and we want to open up an email and go, oh, I get it. So here are some sort of email-oriented topics that you could write about in a business setting. But you can see by the length of the sentences, we can make these types of discussions concise too. Just because it's a bureaucratic topic doesn't mean we have to write in a bureaucratic way. So instead of we are in need of, is there a verb for that? Yeah, need. That's all I did. And you can see the difference there in the length of the sentence. This is to inform you that. Another slow lead-in. What's happening here? We don't know yet. HR is the first word where we learn. Let's start with that and not say HR is, but HR will offer. That's a verb where we can imagine HR doing something. All right, so try this out with your writing, and on the next slide, you'll see an announcement that I have a course on this now that's self-paced. So if you'd like to learn on your own time, how to write with more clarity and concision, hang around and check out the next slide and see what you think. Okay, thanks for being here. I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Get out there and write concisely.